Falling Through the Ropes apologize for some drops in video and audio quality. Skype is shit. We have learnt our lesson. We apologize for any inconvenience caused.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Falling Through the Ropes. This is our very first episode, and what an episode we have in store for you. Not only have we got interviews from China and Helsinki, we've also got competitions for you. Could you be a commentator? We'll find out later on in the show. Also, some very, very bad jokes. And to put the cherry on top of the cake, we have got the one, the only, cosplay killer himself, Adam Lowe. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Adam Lowe is back in the wrestling world. So it's absolutely great to see you again. It's been bloody ages since the last time I've seen you. I know you had to step away from wrestling for a bit, right? And are you okay to talk about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I did not expect that to come up. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, screw it. Nothing off the pits. I have nothing left to care about in the wrestling, so I'll do it.
Fantastic, mate. So yeah, before we talk about you, I think we should get straight into the first interview. We're going to go all the way to Helsinki. And to be fair, he's done some brutal matches, and we've actually got some clips to show. We've travelled all the way to Helsinki, and I'd like to welcome Dylan the Backbreaker Broda. I've had a look at some of your matches. One of the ones that you sent me was really fascinating. It just seemed, when I flicked through it, it was just like a normal, everyday, decent match. But then I flicked through it, and the next minute, the whole ring is covered in blood. So I don't know what the hell happened there, and I thought, this is a match that we're going to watch together, so I turned it off, so I don't know what happened, where all this bloody blood came from, so we're going to have a lot of fun watching that. I'd like to introduce you to Adam Lowe, the cosplay killer himself.
Holla holla, players.
How exactly did you get into wrestling in the first place?
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a long story, so put those seatbelts on, I guess. I'll try to do the abridged short form version, but I grew up in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I have 3 younger brothers and an older sister, and, growing up in Canada, wrestling was a pretty big deal, especially for, I guess, young boys. And the heroes being the Hart family, the Hart Foundation, all that kind of stuff with the WWF at the time. And it was one of those kind of dreams, things that you're a kid and you want to be a fireman or an astronaut or something. And the 4 of us, my brothers and I included, wanted to be wrestlers like the Harts. And we were breaking furniture in the basement. I got some VHS tape recorder for Christmas one year, and doing all this kind of crazy stuff, all the way to I was doing backyard wrestling with the friends, and doing a bunch of stupid stuff that I don't recommend you guys do at home. But basically, then when I kind of had an opportunity to train and maybe pursue wrestling. But I was also in the middle of a musical career. I played drums, and I had a bunch of tours offered to me that they would actually pay me. So I thought, maybe I'll do that instead and not break my arms and legs. And I didn't think maybe I was big enough or whatnot to really make it in the wrestling scene. And so I went around the world with a band, or a few bands anyway, and landed in Helsinki, Finland here, and eventually met Michael Starbuck Maialati, who grew up and was born in Timmins, Ontario, to Finnish parents, and then he went and trained at the Hart Family Wrestling School with Lance Storm and this old school wrestler named Carl Moffat, who was also Jason the Terrible in Japan. Really old school gritty, brutal dude who taught it the old school way, and then you had Lance Storm, who had this kind of really technical finesse style, maybe more new school at the time anyway. So Starbuck, as I call him, Buck, he taught me. I met him here, and we clicked, being Canadians. And when he opened his wrestling school for Slam Wrestling Finland, I was first in line. And that was 3 years ago. So ever since then, I have been ranking up my wins and losses and getting that experience down, wrestling in, I think, 6 different countries now. So it's been quite a ride so far anyway.
So wrestlers often find themselves doing it because you have grown up with it. I wanted to do it because I was a kid. Let's pretend I am an outside, never seen wrestling in my life. I'm scrolling across social media and I see this thing. It's wrestling. In how you can't sell it to me. Why should I watch wrestling?
That's a great question, because living here in Finland, it's not anywhere close to mainstream, and it's looked upon as kind of, why would somebody buy a ticket to see a fake fight? And
right.
That's usually the big question, or they just don't really get the point. And I think that the idea that there's no competition there is actually quite false, because even if you think, I mean, the cat's out of the bag, that it's a predetermined ending here, the way that you succeed in pro wrestling is you are competing with your fellow wrestlers, because whomever gets that crowd support, whether it's they hate them or they love them, they are going to be wanted to perform, wanted to wrestle on the next event, and people might buy a ticket because their face is there, and when that face has value, they move up, and maybe in the end of the day they succeed. And that competition, if you're not able to draw those people, if you're not able to get those people, then you are going to lose. Whether you win a match, it's not really the point. It's if you can win the people by winning their emotions. That's the real difficult thing. And I would say that pro wrestling is one of the most unique art forms, martial art forms in a way as well, in the entire world. Because if you think about it, it's this incorporation of so many different art. There's the fighting arts that are really well incorporated there. You have catch wrestling from old British style, and old Olympic style wrestling. There's collar and elbow wrestling. There's huge history there. And then you have this entertainment element of characters and stories, and there's mini stories that involve just in that small match, and there's big stories that might carry on for years and years. And then on top of all of that stuff, you have the audience, and they are also there. They're interactive. They're literally in the middle of it. And so if you break it down in a basic wrestling match, you have 2 wrestlers, a referee, and the referee is kind of the how I feel it, because I started out doing the ref stuff, and you're kind of this liaison to the crowd, kind of basically, if the crowd watches the referee, or the referee's just there, it's kind of like telling the people, like allowing them to follow through what is the story of the match. And then that 4th member of that basic idea is the audience. And if the audience is involved in the actual matches, and they are players in this form of, I guess, theatrical violence, if you want to call it that. And I think it's the only art form that you will see that, where you can go as an audience member, you can interact, you can let out all your stresses, all your anger that you've had at that, nasty asshole, which is usually me, and he's going to give it back to you. And so you're going to be able to have this expression, and you're going to be able to get behind somebody, and if they win and you want them to win, you can express that. And these genuine, real emotions are, if done well and properly, and as a profession or professional level, that's, I think, where the magic comes, and that's real professional wrestling, which is unlike literally anything on the planet right now.
Awesome, dude. Thanks. Thank you so much. Watching like passion of people trying to explain it, it's cool if you're inside and you're like, no, you don't get it. Wrestling's awesome. So trying to explain it to someone that has no clue, that I think is one of the biggest factors of wrestling today, to bring people into it, to be like, look, what we do is really cool. Come be a part of it. You can experience it too. So I loved hearing that. Thank you.
No problem. It's an uphill battle here in Finland because they've even coined the term show wrestling. So they don't want to call it pro wrestling. The media likes to call it show wrestling, which I think kind of defeats the purpose. It kind of gives the trick away, if you want it. I think people want to be, maybe tricked is the wrong way, but you don't go to see a magician because you know that it's all just a trick, it's all just a work. You go there to just try to go like, I don't know how he does it, and I'm gonna love it anyway. So I think pro wrestling is the appropriate title in anywhere you go in the world. Of course, there's lucha libre or puroresu or whatever you want to call it in Japan, and catch wrestling in France still, I believe. So, but I think those all still kind of give it that legitimacy. They don't give it away right away. But yeah, it is a definite passion of mine. I'll admit it.
Good. That's it from me, Jay.
Fantastic, brilliant. I started becoming a wrestling fan again in sort of like 2000, and it was watching the Royal Rumble. Channel 4 decided to show it live, so I was watching it 2 a.m. Hadn't seen it really since probably WrestleMania 6. So watching the Royal Rumble, I didn't expect half the stuff to happen that it did. You had the Dudley Boys against the Hardys with that table match, was absolutely unbelievable. Even I was stood there thinking, this isn't the wrestling I know. You know, are they actually really doing this? And then Mick Foley and Triple H came on for their street fight, and that was basically the holy shit moment for me, where I absolutely oh yeah, well, you know, we're not child friendly here. Well, I suppose we are. We're not. You know, we can't swear if we want. But yeah, because we're going to show a lot of blood, especially from the backbreaker here. Bloody hell, right? So I'm going to see if I can get this clip to.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So I know absolutely nothing about you, Dylan. Now that I know a little bit more about your background, I'm intrigued, dude. Let's have a look.
You did the first death match in Helsinki, is that correct?
I think it would be the first death match in the Baltic countries, so that would properly be labeled as a barbed wire body bag death match was what it was actually called.
Yeah, let's get into this.
It's only a clip, this one.
Matches.
All right.
Yeah, well, he deserved it, by the way. So. This is Nick Rhino, one of my most hated rivals. I've been fighting him for over a year, and this was basically the last match that we were going to have. It was my tribute to Terry Funk, by the way.
Oh yes, it's absolutely saddened what's happened. Yeah, I absolutely love barbed wire matches. I suppose the main question that anyone's going to ask you is, was that barbed wire actually real?
Yeah, it was.
Because, you know, in all fairness, you know, the WWE have been known to use fake barbed wire, you know what I mean? So
I'll tell you the biggest reason why I didn't use fake barbed wire is because it costs so much more.
Yeah. It's more effective, just, you know, if you want it to look real, just do it for real, isn't it? Yeah, so...
I'll show you pictures of my back if you want, and I can send you those things if you want.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
The exact same thing. It's like, are those real tags? Is that really glass? And it's like, if I knew there was a way that you could fake this and that there are not real tags out there, do you not think I would be doing that?
I have had a tip before as well that was, if you're going to use barbed wire, there's this idea that you're going to dull the barbs, so it, I guess, doesn't hurt as much, is the idea. But in reality, what I think Sabu had said, yeah, you want it to be super sharp, because you don't want to hit dull spikes, because that's going to hurt way more. You want it to go in and out, and you don't, and that's, you know, how you want it to be. Hit that barbed wire hard, and then it's just a little prick, and you're good. So, but this, yeah, I got cut up pretty good. But to be honest with you, maybe I'm a sick person, but I have dreamed about doing a barbed wire match, and I campaigned to do the barbed wire match, and here I was we wrapped the barbed wire around the ropes, and I made a barbed wire board, and unfortunately I was the one to go in through it, which, yeah, that sucked big time. But when you heard that crowd, actually that was probably the most painful thing I have ever happened to me in a wrestling match, going through this barbed wire board off the apron, and the crowd started chanting in Finnish. I'll say it in Finnish, but it's basically what the F, but they said mitä vittua. It's like the chant, mitä vittua, mitä vittua. And when I heard that, like, it started getting louder and louder and louder, and the pain just started going away, because I realized I shocked those. There is at a black metal festival, so it's black metal festival, you know, they're all pouring cow's blood on them on the stage, and here we are, like, just messing ourselves up in this barbed wire match, and we got them to chant this "what the F," and that was like a huge badge of honor for me, I'll tell you.
Fantastic. See, I absolutely love hardcore matches. Have you ever tried the scaffolding match yet?
No, I think probably they won't allow. Actually, the weird thing I found out later was that technically this would have been illegal in Finland, but nobody said anything. So I think the scaffold match might be off the cards, but let's see. There's still time.
Any questions, Adam?
Yeah. To people that don't get it, they will see hardcore and death matches as, I don't understand it. This is just pure, unadulterated violence. Explain to me, how does blood and this form of entertainment, how does blood enhance the experience? Or how does hardcore enhance the experience?
Yeah, I mean, I look at wrestling as a musician in a lot of ways, that there's like these genres of music, and so as well as in martial arts you have genres of martial arts. You have karate, kung fu, then there's UFC, the mixed martial arts, and you know, taekwondo, where you're just going for the points and things like that, and there's street fighting as well. And in music you have pop, you have you know, pop rock, and I don't know, I'm all out of the scene now. But then you go all the way, there's death metal.
Yeah.
And there is something there that it's not, you can't find in a Nickelback song. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, you know, but not saying Nickelback's. Well, I'm not going to say anything about Nickelback. But anyway.
You had one chance. You were like, you know what? I'm Canadian. I can say it. Nickelback.
It's going to change my music to Nickelback these days. Actually, when I was at the Black Metal Festival, that was Nickelback was going to be my entrance music. But yeah, so I think that this hardcore wrestling with the death matches, it's just like, Well, I might have the, I think my Bluetooth failed. So basically, I think the hardcore matches are like hardcore punk, you know, and then the death matches are like death metal. And the violence in a fight, chances are there's going to be blood. There's blood in boxing, there's blood in kickboxing, there's blood in MMA, all the time. Because you're in a fight and it's a real deal. And I think in old school wrestling, if you look at the Memphis style stuff, there was blood a lot.
Yeah.
Because they were in a fight, and it didn't have to be in a cage match, it didn't have to be barbed wire or gimmicks or whatever you want to do. It was Ric Flair and Terry Funk or whatever just slugging each other to the point where they're bleeding, and bleeding a lot. And I think that I get it where people can't see the point because they look at this as like a show. And well, why would you bleed? You know, why are you using real blood? That's the other thing. That how come it's real blood? Why wouldn't you just use fake blood? Which I got in huge trouble in the next match that you'll probably show. We were at a kickboxing event, and I know I'm going off topic here, but maybe I'll save that story for that one. So, but I think it's necessary, these death matches and things. I have to be honest with you that I'm a huge death match fan, but the current state of death matches, maybe it's I've become like desensitized, and I'm really a huge fan of the Japanese old school, even Texas death matches, where it was like full of emotion. And what I wanted to do in this death match, I had was show that emotion, that like this. I really actually hate this guy. That is like in reality, I don't like him, and I have been paired with him for a year, and they keep putting me with this Mick Vinyl, this big Estonian idiot. And so when he agreed that we'll do the barbed wire thing, you know, like we didn't talk before the match. You know, this whole idea of wrestling is choreographed. We knew how it's going to end. It's a body bag match because I didn't want to build a coffin, basically. So we had the body bag, and I thought it was more disturbing anyway. You zip the guy up to win, and we just went and beat the shit out of each other. And if you want to say for real, you know, I don't know, but there was real emotion there that we had towards each other, and I think that's what death matches these days are lacking. That they are just violence for violence, which I like that too, don't get me wrong, but if you watch Onita versus Terry Funk's all over the place in this conversation, but for good reason. The guys were crying at the end, you know. Fans were crying. It wasn't just because the barbed wire was exploding, you know, people were shocked. It was that there was something real happening. And I think that when you can get that in wrestling, I don't know did we get that, but when you invoke a real emotion out of somebody, you know, that's what I think is special. And if death matches can do that, and they're not for everybody, but they're for some people. So just like you guys and myself. So why the hell not?
Exactly,
Cool,
absolutely.
Cool.
So, you know, I'm intrigued to get into this match and find out where the hell this blood came from. Right.
So this is a K1 ring.
It is.
Yes.
You intrigued already, Adam?
Yeah, you know it. Yeah.
Right, let's go for it.
Okay.
So he was. This is Steve Solo. He's a Finnish wrestler that I had my first match with, and I trained with him from the beginning. And he's a pompous prick, I'll tell you that first off, and thinks that he's better than everybody. And we were invited because we were the two top wrestlers to have a proper wrestling match at this K1 event in Estonia. It was this King of Kings kickboxing event. And I'll tell you that ring is basically has a metal like a steel pillar in the middle of it, and it's a carpet on top of wood. So it's not, there's no give in any way. And the fans were not so thrilled about seeing a wrestling match. I'll tell you that right now. They were yelling at this moment, boring. You know, and what, like, why don't you kiss him or something like that? But here, this is a collar and elbow takeover, a pretty like judo-esque throw, and just these, like, you know, it's not fun landing like that.
No,
I'll tell you.
I can tell you. So, for people that don't know, or like, a wrestling ring is built differently. I've been in K1 rings. They are not nice. They're not padded. They are just. They're not designed to be bumped on. So I'm watching these like takedowns.
But I'll tell you what, Daniel, we're actually going to be here in Telling Story 1 week later.
The commentators are, it's actually my train.
We're going to be at the George.
He's with the one guy. We're basically trying to, somebody's trying to get the upper hand, and what we wanted to show, and I think that's worldwide. That's worldwide. Like, chain wrestling, but, you know, here.
Well, yeah, he's one of the pioneers in the NWA.
Actually, George the father of the Hackspot, the pro wrestling version of the Bear Hug.
Reactions. So we know the holds, we know the founders at least, and I know my style, and he knows his.
He was Estonian. He was,
you know, we try to like basically work with each other. He never likes
back to the
give
roots.
me anything, so I have to really fight for it. And
next weekend on the 14th
yeah, I mean,
Saturday, in his honor,
so it's like old school catch wrestling. I trained with Marty Jones from Manchester,
all right,
and
now
learned
back to
this
the
like
action
kind
in the
of
ring here. You can see these two
really
starting
regal
things off here
style
very
for me.
technically. And
okay,
I'm
not
wondering if they're somehow adapting to the ring here, because this is a huge ring that they might not be used to. This is more the size of a WWE kind of a ring.
At the same time as
I think it's bigger than
having the power moves, and my basic, I'm trying to focus on the guy's back side.
But it could be.
I know everybody has a bad back. I'm trying to even that up.
No, it doesn't.
Whereas
but
the
so
ring is built to have
here we were just trying to have good, solid chain wrestling.
Exactly, that's what I was wondering. Exactly what kind of a match we're going to see here between these two. It does look like they're well versed in catch wrestling here.
Absolutely. I've been teaching now.
I mean, I don't want to do commentary on this thing, but this arm drag, for example, that
and you could hear the smack of the ring that time.
I don't know if that's right there.
Sorry to interrupt, Jay. Are you alright to turn the commentary down on the actual video?
Yeah?
But,
yeah,
Is it too loud, is it?
Yeah. So
Yeah, there you go.
the first strike's been thrown. So in wrestling terms, it's hard to come back from the first strike. I've enjoyed your storytelling so far.
Oh, he's got a mouth on him too, doesn't he?
He is.
Genuinely in like shock that a mixed martial art crowd are willing to accept this, especially in Estonia. Like, I'm expecting them to be kicking off at this point.
The funny part was that a few of the referees for the K1 stuff, they were laughing at us in the dressing room, to be honest with you. We're speaking Russian, but that's a common language in Estonia. So, but we got people who kind of understand this arm drag really fuck.
Yeah.
Look at this.
You got to keep going. And
in the middle as well. Oh no.
So, but they were, you know, kind of, this clown wrestling, what are they even doing here, and that kind of thing. And I'll tell you this right now, that when we walked back to the doctor's office to go to see the actual doctor, they wanted selfies with us. Yeah, so it was. I think we won over. It was really difficult. This was one of the really difficult crowds. We did get actually a good. Like, this is like also everybody's in tuxedo and this kind of thing at their dinner table, sitting there and all that. And you know, but we did get a good amount of claps at the end, and I think we did win them over. But now, you know, it kind of I'm really pissed off with this audience that they yelling a bunch of stuff at me here, but
And I assume they're not used to being talked to either. Like
they are not. Yeah, they're. It's one of those things that they don't or they don't know what to do. You know. And there's TT here. He was trying to hurt the ring girl right there. That was I should have taken advantage of that, but. Yeah, I mean, well, for the most part here, we're trying to sort of like more of a. Well, first, I didn't want to take any too heavy bumps, you know, no superplexes going on here this time, but show like a lot of the actual wrestling stuff, and
in the past 15 years.
Before we get into the nasty things, and I think coming up soon here is when he might accidentally whack his head off the ring post. They're legitimate cut that so the ring post does give you one of those. You don't have to carry a razor blade in your pocket. So
Suasala on the outside of the ring here. Here comes Broda. What's he got?
Here I come follow him. And by the way, this ring was like and
peppering him with shots.
it was quite difficult to get into because there was no step.
watching the audience react to it though, like at the moment they're jovial, they're laughing towards it.
They were just like, here I go, I pin his head off there.
It wouldn't be beneath
And
with a broom either.
yeah, he was.
Right in the face with that ring post.
But you're building that solid foundation of the story of you have been out wrestled, you're getting angry, so now you're resorting to, well, cheaper antics, and people is like, I can see the first dinner table here, this lady's laughing, but she's not looking away, they're not in conversation, they are genuinely watching it and filming it.
They were. There was a lot of self-care. There was a lot of this general interest in that nervous laugh. You can already see the blood splattered there on that was prop. He just started gushing, and everybody thought it was fake. We got in big time trouble from the promoter that who's going to clean up all this fake blood. And then I'm saying, well, go talk to the doctor that just put 5 stitches in this guy's head. So if you want to be legit, you know, and go off that ring post, no need for a blade on that. I mean, you know. It is a fight, and blood can happen in a fight. And if you get a head injury, you know, this is I did a mistake where the guy yelled at me, "Can we have some of that ketchup for our fries?" And I said, "You want this ketchup?" And I licked the blood off my hand, and I thought to myself, like, "Oh, well, what a bad idea that was." So, but you know.
This is wild to see though, because like so wrestling has such history with people like Sakuraba who through pride fought away through the Gracies. So watching this, people shouldn't be going, oh, this is jovial.
I'll tell you what,
like,
I think
there's such a heritage towards it, but also yeah, why is, if this is a genuine like K1 event, why is the ref not stopping it? That is it. Like, if
she's a pro wrestling ref.
Stop it.
Okay, tilt-a-whirl backbreaker there, and going off those ropes, they were not tightened, you know, to much of a degree. So that's yeah. I mean, there. I guess what I watched a lot of was he's actually giving me some pretty nasty elbows here, trying to block Lesnar me, and did actually bust me open a little bit there, but not in any way like how he was going. But
okay, that's a good cover-up as well, by the way. Like, kudos to you for that.
Nicknamed Tucker from Northern Ireland, and also.
But he, I think, yeah, the UWF was a UWF fight for Japan craze, where it was pro wrestling, but they took it to that limit where I guess the next step was the UFC, to go MMA, and those guys like Ken Severin and Minoru Suzuki, and these kind of guys who kind of came anchors, UWF, Vader was there, and whatnot, right? So that's kind of like what we're going after. If you want, like this is where we kind of got the crowd. I think now they were really intrigued.
Yeah, turn it up a little bit, Jay, because this is starting to get a little bit more brutal.
Look out. Both of them are down.
Both these guys corking each other. The spirit of battle, the spirit of the fight. Both of these guys are,
and the crowd are into it.
That actually give us something. Really surprising. We hit each other as bloody hard as we possibly could there. And, trying, of course, not to knock each other out, but we're trained in the way that you got to hit hard and safe. And it's not like it doesn't hurt, but
in our business, what we call snug. And now, Broda looking to capitalize here, but look out into the ropes, and Suasano cuts him off with a clothesline of his own.
Well, he saw that one coming a mile away.
Here he comes now, Broda.
Across the string was like,
and now,
and it was pretty weird. We were working to 8.
This is just the opening match of this entire thing.
But this 22-foot ring really, you see all the blood there?
Yeah, bring it down once again, Jay.
Into the corner.
Fight.
Open hand shot to the chest.
All they thought it was fake blood.
And again, open hand shot.
And
look out.
this hit us here.
Oh, his tailbone that time.
I could feel that one.
Going up top. High
And this was Ricky Steamboat style hits.
Ricky the Dragon Steamboat known for that head scissor. And now the drop kick, gunshot style.
And I think he told me later he nearly knocked himself out on that shotgun.
Yeah, so every experience of a K1 ring I've been in, is it just carpet? That ring?
Carpet. Yeah, and then
carpet, is it a vinyl top?
And he was like, with the blood loss that he had, I think he was pretty much now like
he's annihilating Broda in the corner.
he just But here, then the best way to win a match here is just push him into the ref.
That time she got it all. Good night.
And then poke him in the eye and roll it.
Referee.
Pull the tights as
Oh,
well.
it's got the tights hooked.
3.
And he got him. I don't believe it.
He got him.
But he was done with that blood loss. He had no energy left. And
Not only
you
did
know,
he take out
get
the
poked in
referee,
the eye,
he pulled the tights
find out
in
what
order to
happened.
get the victory.
That was an experience, I'll tell you. It was in a hockey arena, so I think they had sold technically. I think it was sold out, and they.
I love it.
These guys have to get out of the ring. They have got to
You got to do it. I was pissed because I wanted to hit him with my backstabber, so I'm like, well, I'm going to do it now.
Referee.
So.
The referee's got to get this match.
But yeah, this was.
This match is over.
This was a fun thing, and I do think it's if you're going to have a fight and there's no blood, especially if you're going to use fists and things like that, and you don't get somebody bloody, then that's when it's a fake fight.
And I think that we need to get some serious medical attention here.
I
think we need to get him.
I was not expecting that outcome from the beginning of the match. The beginning of the match that's very lots of in and outs, lots of basic storytelling in the way of, well, here's the out of the hold. For it to evolve into that, I was okay.
See what I mean? And I actually skipped through that. So 1 minute it was just a nice clean fight, next minute blood everywhere.
I was just saying when we went back to the trainer's room, because we were ordered to go, and just to look at the cut, and the first thing that they said was, how much of this is paint? And we were like, none of it. They were like, it's real, all real blood? Yeah. And they're like, oh. So then it started to set into their minds that, like, wait a minute, we didn't just book 2 clowns here, you know?
Yeah.
But a really good experience, and that was a place that's hardest crowd to work in front of, because they didn't want to like it. I'll tell you that for sure. They wanted us to fail bad, I think, to just kind of expose that, whatever, the real fighters are coming up next. And, so I'm not saying we did the best ever, but I think that I was really proud of the fact that we did get a good reaction, and that I think, won them over to a good degree, at least.
See, and I bet you the real fighters didn't give as much blood as you two did, to be fair.
Yeah, not at all.
Right, so we're sort of coming towards the end. Have you got anything that you'd like to ask Adam?
I want to ask, so if you could change, everyone has a different perspective and experience of wrestling. Some people have good experiences, bad, but throughout all of it, there's always things that can be improved on. So wrestling as it is right now left the pandemic. A lot of countries could not go to live wrestling. What would you change about wrestling now?
It's a good question, because wrestling is an ever-evolving art form, as everything. Like I said, from the fighting arts, that has evolved, especially like with this MMA. Like I said, if you watch the first UFC, and then watch what UFC, for example, is putting out now, it's a very different product, a very different style, art form. And then again with movies and music, it's the same thing. So as much as I enjoy like this hyper athletic wrestling that we see now with the really spectacular stunts, and things that normal people just won't be able to physically do. Of course, then at the same time, people are not physically going to also do them in a fight. And maybe what I'd like to see changed about wrestling in the mainstream side of wrestling. I don't mean in mainstream, because I don't know if wrestling is mainstream yet, or has it ever been, but I would like to see people being trained in a way that they can call it in the ring. Because I believe, and of course I'm open to anybody's interpretation, because I think wrestling is for everyone, and there should be something for everyone in wrestling, whether you want to choreograph it to the T, or whether you want to improvise everything, as in call the finish on the fly, like get the ref to tell you who's going over and when. But I think that the art form of professional wrestling as a martial art and as an entertainment art is the ability to improvise, read the room, and call it in the ring. And that's what, I can't say that I'm a master of it, but that's what I aspire to do, and that's how I was trained, and I'm really thankful I was trained that way, because I've been in certain situations where I get flown into Switzerland, for example, and I have never met any of the wrestlers before, and the flight's late, and I'm waiting for the driver, and eventually I get there, and I got 2 hours before the match, and it's a 6-man tag all of a sudden, and these guys want to do all kinds of crazy spots and things like that, and I'm just like, well, let's just go in and do whatever, what's the story? It's let's just, everybody knows who they are, so let's tell a story. And I think that there's a lot of wrestlers who have been in it for a long, long time. I have been professionally wrestling for 3 years, and I can say, and not trying to be cocky, but I can say that there's wrestlers that I have worked with that have been in the business for over 10 years, and they are not in anywhere comfortable to call it in the ring. They could be, I would love all their matches and think that they're just fantastic and like just unbelievable wrestlers, and not taking absolutely anything away from them. But this almost lost art of calling it there, improvising, working on the fly, I wish and hope that more people are inspired to train that way, because it is hard. It's probably one of the hardest things about wrestling. You know, if you want to do like a whatever, like the Sasuke special, the whatever cartwheel to the moonsault out of the ring, yeah, you know, that's hard. I'm not doing that, but you know, I think that people should take the time and learn how to work on the fly and call it in the ring, and because that, I think, is the real art form of pro wrestling.
Okay, thank you for that, dude. Like, in the UK, we all start young, so like, hearing that you've only been doing it for 3 years, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. But I forget, like, in the UK, people start at like 10, and they just don't stop. We're all taught. So I'm not saying all taught. Where I was taught is on the fly. The way in my school where we were allowed to go and do outsides is the way we graduated was you had to do an hour fly on the an hour match on the fly. All in the ring. You wouldn't know you'd be doing it until that morning. And then all of a sudden, click, right, in you go, right, an hour on the fly. And then obviously when you graduate, and then someone else needs to do it, you've got to come in, do the hour fly for them. And then obviously people don't understand the more experienced people lead matches. So we get times now, like in the rings, where people get injured. Still got to go, but how do we adapt now? And it's either just the ref's going to call it. But dude, thank you so much for that. Thank you.
No, not at all. I'm happy that there's other people who share my opinion, you know.
Right, I'd like to...
Anything else you want, Jay?
No, I'd just like to say thank you, Dylan, for joining us. We'd love to have you on the show again, so if you've got any more matches you'd like to share with us, we'd love to give them a watch.
Well, are you going to put all of the links?
Appreciate you guys having me here, and when I get that barbed wire match, the barbed wire body bag death match in a proper form, that I can send it to you, and then maybe we can watch along with that, and you can tell me if I lived up the death match standard.
Oh, most definitely, absolutely. We'll be up for that, won't we, Adam?
I'd love to. So the last thing from me, I am an absolute no one. Never seen wrestling ever before in my life. I see you, and I know nothing about Dylan Brody or Dylan, whatever your character is. So sell me a character. What in a nutshell? Sell me a character.
All right. Well, I have to say that, oh snap! This is Dylan the Backbreaker Broda from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and I'm right here on this podcast that I can't remember the name of because I really do not care. But what I can tell you you're going to care about is when I take that little scrawny boy on the other end of this screen that I can see, drag him feet first into that ring, hoist him above my head, and oh snap! I'm going to break his back. And that is what you are going to remember. Ha!
Fantastic, man. Thank you so much again. Definitely love to have you back on the show. So yeah, when you do get that death match, we'll give it a good watch.
Yeah, thanks guys, appreciate it. And you're not a scrawny boy, but you know, I had to throw it in there.
Dude, I'm fine. I'm a little weasel. I know exactly what I am. If we ever in the ring, I'd absolutely destroy you, and that's cool and all. But you want to pick on me, little British weasel? I don't care. I'll eat you.
Hey, let's see. I'm gonna be in south of London. October next month doing some Comic-Con event, so hop down there and let's see what you got.
Peace out, yeah.
Oh, most definitely. Gotta send you down there. Right, so we've come to the part of the show where it's a bit of a competition, and it's the worst wrestling joke. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask viewers to tell us their worst wrestling joke, and if you can just put it in the comments below and we might possibly read them out. So I'll give you an example. So, you know, what lights up a wrestling ring?
What?
The match.
Wow.
See?
Wow.
Proper bad, but let's see if you can do even worse than that, and we want to read them out in our next episode.
Jeez, that's bad. Right.
I also challenge you, Adam, to also come up with one that's worse than that as well.
Yeah, go on then. My current one is CM Punk.
Oh yes. So I take it you've heard about him getting the sack and everything else.
Yeah, I keep out of wrestling, but that has gathered so much attention that even I see it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, fair play. That's some good publicity.
Most definitely. It's like the first time that he got suspended. I thought everybody seems to think that it was a real thing, but I think it was more of a work, because he'd been injured at the time. He was already on his way out. So what a good way to actually write it into the storyline is that he's pissed off a load of people and he's been suspended for it.
It doesn't matter if it's a work or not. It has gathered publicity on a scale that isn't typical for wrestling. Like, there aren't many things that can trigger this kind of level of publicity, and it is multiple times now across his career that CM Punk has been able to do that, so he's still the greatest in the world at publicity.
Yep, completely agree with you there. Yeah, I don't really keep up with the news either, with the AEW or WWE, so that's why I have asked the Powerbomb Nation to supply the American pro wrestling mainstream news.
Hello and welcome to the Powerbomb Nation Insider. For all the news that is news in the world of professional wrestling, I'm your host, Dwight Couch, and we thank you for tuning in. I would like to start and announce our partnership with the crew over at Falling Through the Ropes, and I would like to personally thank them for choosing the Powerbomb Nation as their choice and official news provider of their podcast. Before we get started, we want to pay our respects to two of the most prolific professional wrestlers to ever step foot in the squared circle. I'm talking about the recent passing of Terry Funk and, of course, Wyndham Rotunda, also known as Bray Wyatt. So please, let's take a moment. So I was in attendance at the tribute show that took place on SmackDown just a mere week ago, and to say the least, it was a very, very emotional experience, and we thank you, Terry Funk, and we thank you, Bray Wyatt, for everything that you gave us. And now, on to the news. So AEW grabbing the main event of headlines, seems like all week this week, and they fired one of their top stars. That's right, Tony Khan and AEW officially come to terms and fire the one and only CM Punk. And we had a press release from AEW and Tony Khan. Let's take a look at that now. A statement from All Elite Wrestling and Tony Khan. All Elite Wrestling has terminated wrestler and employment agreements between Phillip Brooks, CM Punk, and AEW with cause effective immediately. The termination was confirmed today by Tony Khan, CEO, General Manager, and head of creative of AEW. The termination follows a week-long investigation of an incident occurring backstage at AEW All In London on Sunday, August the 27th. Following the investigation, the AEW Discipline Committee met and later convened with outside legal counsel before making a unanimous recommendation to Khan that CM Punk should be terminated with cause. Khan offered the following statement. Phil played an important role within AEW, and I thank him for his contribution. The termination of his AEW contract with cause is ultimately my decision and mine alone. Of course, I wish it didn't have to share this news, which may come as a disappointment to many of our fans. Nevertheless, I am making the decision in the best interest of the many amazing people who make AEW possible every week. Our talent, staff, venue operators, and many others whose efforts are unsung but essential to bringing our fans great shows on television and at arenas and stadiums throughout the world. So there you have it. CM Punk no longer with AEW. This all stems from an altercation between CM Punk and Jack Perry at AEW All In, which resulted first in both men being suspended while the investigation was underway. According to one source, Perry stated his comments aimed at Punk before his match with Hook were merely to draw heat from the crowd. Punk forcefully shoved Jack, and then when Jack confronted CM Punk, this led to the alleged chokehold from Punk to Perry, and we all know how this supposedly ended. Tony Khan was said to have swiftly intervened and ordering CM Punk to release Perry immediately. This had to wind up being broke up by several staff members, and it was very unsure that the first match was going to happen in London. Allegedly, that's when Punk directed his frustration towards Tony Khan. It is reported that he lunged in Khan's direction, shouting, "I quit," and began knocking over monitors and everything in the gorilla position. Samoa Joe was able to calm Punk down and had their match, which opened the show at All In, being reported as a genuine leadership move backstage for Samoa Joe, as the locker room really looked to him as he took control of the situation and the evening. So without Samoa Joe, the whole show could have went way further south, and this could have been a much more escalated situation. But what do you think about Tony Khan firing CM Punk and parting ways with AEW? Is this the right move? Is this something that's going to hurt them long term? Was Phillip Brooks' contract with AEW the reason they're able to put that many fans in seats and keep the doors open? Only time will tell. AEW existed before CM Punk. Let's see if it exists after CM Punk. That's not the only headline AEW's been grabbing this week. A little bit better news is that the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, is expected to be back in action very soon. We've seen him make his reappearance on AEW Collision this week, signing a contract for a match between himself and Ricky Starks. Of course, Ricky Starks is also suspended for about 30 days from now, so it gives Bryan Danielson just enough time to heal back up and be ready to go, and hopefully this will all go down at or before Wrestle Dream, a newly announced pay-per-view by AEW that is held to honor the late Antonio Inoki. And we are super excited to see this because Wrestle Dream goes down October the 1st in the hometown of Bryan Danielson. That's right, Seattle, Washington. And we are super excited for the return of Bryan Danielson, the American Dragon. You know, that's just something I'm never going to get used to, is Bryan Danielson after so many years of Daniel Bryan. But in other news, lots of fans were very excited to see that John Cena returned to the WWE this week and even hosted the premier live event Payback, and even found himself donning the black and white shirt. Oh, wait, that's not John Cena. That's Ernest P. Worrell. There's John Cena. And he even found himself donning the black and white shirt of a referee as he officiated the match between the one and only The Miz and L.A. Knight. Yeah, Cena is scheduled to work with a handful of SmackDown tapings during his run, and at least the Superstar Spectacular that we'll see coming from India really soon. We'll have to wait and see where Cena's return will lead and how long it will go. We're told that Cena is locked in for as long as the writer strike continues, so this could be a relatively short run with just a handful of dates already announced, or it could be an even lengthier run. We'll just have to wait and see how long the writer strike lasts. I would personally love to see John Cena come in and put over the likes of Grayson Waller, or have an absolute 5-star banger with the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. Maybe his run gets to be extended. We could even get the heel run we've been so desperately wanting out of John Cena for so long. In other wrestling news, Ohio Valley Wrestling, the legendary training grounds that has put forth legends such as John Cena, Cody Rhodes, Brock Lesnar, Randy Orton, Batista, CM Punk, The Miz, and more, is set to be the center of a new Netflix docucenter that releases September the 13th. Developed by the creators of Last Chance U and Cheer, this wrestling documentary is going to follow legendary wrestler Al Snow as he takes over the reins when he bought OVW. Unfortunately, OVW's finances are in shambles, and he has to sell a majority ownership to Kentucky radio host Matt Jones. How will this partnership work? Will OVW survive? Will the legendary arena be able to stay open and continue to train the legends of tomorrow today? We're going to have to tune in on September the 13th on Netflix and find out exactly how it's all going to go down. I've had the pleasure of going to many OVW events over the years and had the pleasure of meeting superstars such as Chris Silvio and many more, and I'm super excited for this documentary series to continue because, as Seth Rollins said on the Inside the Ropes or After the Bell podcast with Corey Graves, Seth Rollins talked about the current wrestling boom that we're facing in professional wrestling right now when he brought up AEW as the example, selling 80,000 plus seats in Wembley Stadium, making it one of the largest events in professional wrestling history and supposedly the largest gate for paid tickets in professional wrestling history. We are in the midst of a wrestling boom right now, folks. It's never been a better time to be a wrestling fan. You got anywhere from 8 to 9 products on TV, plus your premium live events. So it's a good time to go out there and see some professional wrestling. But before we leave you today, we wanted to talk about one last thing that happened at Payback, and that is the return of Main Event Jey Uso. And Cody Rhodes announced last night on the Waller Effect that he pulled some strings and got Main Event Jey Uso traded to Monday Night Raw. That's right. Main Event Jey Uso is on the red brand moving forward, and we're going to have to see where he can go in singles competition now that he has officially broke away from the bloodline and his brother Jimmy. So how far do you think Jey Uso's Main Event singles run can go? Let us know in the comments below. Well, that wraps it up. That is all the news that is news in the world of professional wrestling today. I'm Dwight Couch. You can follow me at Powerbomb Nation on all the social medias. Make sure you drop a like and subscribe to the Powerbomb Nation, and more importantly, a like and subscribe also to our partners over at Falling Through the Ropes. Please like and subscribe to them all. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've actually worked together. The last time I remember was you actually used me as a step to get into the ring.
Yep, you were a good step.
A good step. See, I always thought that we could have developed that a lot more, you know what I mean, to the point where, you know, you'd end up kicking the shit out of me, to be fair, you know what I mean?
I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do half of the time when I'm wrestling, let alone the future on, but I think interaction is great, and I mean, I'd have loved to beat the shit out of you. Like, you've just got such a beatable face. Yeah.
You know, from a wrestling term, I won't take that offensively.
No, that's like a great compliment. If any heel turns around, it's like, you know what, dude, you've just got a face that I want to punch. Take it as a compliment.
Oh, definitely. You know, it's something we'll have to develop. To be fair, you know, I'm quite happy to take have you put me through a table or something, just for the buzz of it. I'm not a wrestler. I've never trained as a wrestler, but
you go for a table.
I would go for a table with you.
We can make that happen.
Yeah, it's got to be filmed, right? And we'll stick it on the show and see if I survive for the next episode.
Yeah, we will do it. That is you committing into it now.
I am committing to it now.
Charity drive. I'll put you through a table for charity.
Yeah, you organise it and buy the table, and I'll go through
You're
it.
You're committing to it now. This is a commitment. You can't back out.
No, I've got no intentions of backing out. I will go through it.
Right. Okay.
But you had to sort of step away from wrestling for a bit.
Yeah.
Would you like to sort of talk us through what actually happened with that?
I messed up. I faked my own death, which I did not do very well, and I sent messages out to people to be like, "Hey, memorial, I'm dead. Memorize me." And it went out to anyone that had interacted in the last 30 or 60 days. It was an automated thing on Instagram. I used Hootsuite to just send them out. And it went down the wrong way. The plan was to come back as an undead character, very much like your Undertakers, for a Halloween show. And the wrestling, small bubble in the Northwest did not like it. So I wasn't allowed to wrestle in the Northwest for a bit. So I left wrestling. Just left wrestling.
So what made you come back? Because you wrestled this weekend, didn't you?
Yeah. Wrestling is a lot bigger and wider than Twitter and social media would make you believe. Wrestling, we get stuck in little bubbles, and it's hard to escape those bubbles. But then when I remember, oh, holy heck, there's a whole world out there, and it's not just what's on my front doorstep. Reaching out to people, I was like, you know what, I just enjoy it too much. It's part of me. And I recently broke up with my partner. If I didn't break up, I would never have come back to wrestling. There are so many parts of wrestling that I do not like. And that's from a fan side of things, you will never see this. But from a inside kind of thing, it hasn't really moved on much. And it's still a lot of bullying and hush-hush and clicky and politicky. So there are so many bits that I don't like, but I had to come back because I just love it, and I am not myself when I'm not doing it. It is my favourite thing. Yeah. And if I wasn't, I would be in the last year I put on 2 stone because I just lost all my confidence. And it's only recently I've been working it off, but I'm just man, without it, what the heck do I do with myself?
So how did your match go this weekend?
I had a few. I did Comic-Con in Wales, in Wrexham, with PCW. They're a fantastic group of lads and lasses. And we've just interviewed that guy from Finland, where they were playing to a crowd that aren't wrestling fans.
Yeah.
The Comic-Con lot, they were not wrestling fans. There's a weird niche cut over at the moment where it's becoming more into that nerdy, geeky culture because it's storylines. It's over the top storylines, so it naturally fits in there. It's a comic book, but with violence.
Yeah. Well, pretty much most comic books have violence nowadays, don't they? So.
Yeah. So performing in front of crowds that just weren't wrestling fans, I find the best.
Yeah.
I love hooking people in. So, IRL, Adam, I'm a huge geek, massive geek. I played Yu-Gi-Oh! All of my life. I love Yu-Gi-Oh! So I got to cut Philip Michaels with a pot of greed. I was doing paper cuts with pot of greed on him. The crowd were through the power of blue eyes. I'm not blue eyes. No. Draw 2, and then I'd cut in between his fingers. and people really getting into it because I'm giving them something that they like.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the finish to both of my matches. So I did day one, and then the same people weren't there. So day two, a whole different people, and I was working through. And I love D&D. I absolutely love D&D. So I have this huge bag of dice. I'm talking D20s, all different sizes, shapes, colours, sparkly, everything. I went under the ring, got them out, and poured this massive bag of dice all across the ring. People are like, yeah! But bumping on dice is not pleasant. I can gladly say I prefer tack bumps than dice.
See, I've never seen you take tacks. I didn't know that you took them.
Yeah. I'm like, my character is obviously I'm a one of the most technical wrestlers, but no, I love hardcore. I love it.
Do you know, you've got to send us some of your hardcore matches.
Okay, yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, cool.
So what's your most brutal match that you've done?
My most brutal is the hardcore match that I did with Mitchell Starr at the first WAW Pride show. We wanted to tell the story of complete polar opposites, so I highly recommend you look it up. It's on WAW's Twitch. I'm sure there are excerpts out there on YouTube, but we thought it'd be a really good moment to symbolize coming out for me to go through a door.
Yeah.
Like a wardrobe door to the outside of the ring, and it was covered in thumbtacks. So in that match, I get hit by traffic cones. The most painful part of that match was not actually the door. It was I took a DDT from the apron to the outside onto a TV monitor, and that's the most painful bump I've ever taken because it had no give. I thought it'd be cool if it smashed and it went through. It didn't. It hurt, and my head wobbled. So there was a moment where I was in and out and phasing, and Mitchell had to call things to me because I didn't know where I was. I genuinely didn't know where I was. So there are bits of that match where if you watch it, puts a pin over my head, hits me, but because I can't, I don't bump. I'm just falling at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the most hot, like the hardest match I've ever been in.
Right. So what's
all again for him?
So I'm pretty sure you've already sort of said this, but what's your favourite part about wrestling? Is it the crowds? Was it?
No,
oh no, that was sorry, that was Dylan. I'm getting too mixed up now.
Yeah,
so yeah,
my favourite part of wrestling is
because you told us what what's bad, but what's good.
You will never live a life like the wrestling experiences you have. There are so many things that I have done that I'd never expect to do in a normal 9-to-5 working life. Like throughout the week, you just mundanely get by, and then the weekend comes and you get to meet all these groups of friends and new people. You get to travel to places you've never been. Like wrestling, my favorite bit. It's so hard to sum up, but it's the experiences you have. The people that you meet, I love it, all of it.
Fantastic. It's great to see you back, you know what I mean? I'm glad you didn't let your experience put you down too long.
Thanks.
So, do you have what it takes to be a commentator? So, you're going to watch at the end of the show, we've got a full match. It's from Big Sam, who I had an interview with this morning. Unfortunately, we weren't able to talk through the match with him because Skype wouldn't work at all, so we had to sort of record it all through several different devices, try and do the interview through my phone and his phone. It was just absolute nightmare. But so we're going to use it for this competition. So if you think that you can be a commentator, the next Jerry Lawyer or Jim Ross, we want you to record yourself commentating this match, and we'll show this at the end of the show. So I'd like to thank Adam so much. You're absolutely brilliant. So glad that you're back in the squared circle, and hopefully you're going to do this show with me more often. Pretty much every single one. So. I hope so, because I do love your input. It's absolutely brilliant. I love working with you, mate. And like I said, I'm even willing to go through a table for you.
You've committed to it.
I have committed to it. So, like I say, you sort it out. You pay for the table.
I donate to charity, like, of my own money, and I'm not talking like a little amount. I will put £50 towards a charity of your choice, and I will put you through a table. You committed to it.
Yep, go on then. I'll do it. Like I say, you sort it out. You give me a date, time, location, and we'll film it and we'll put it on the show.
Sounds good to me, bud.
Right, fantastic. Thank you. Is there anything else you want to say before we go?
No, dude, we got time. We got loads more to do.
Absolutely, so much. Right, so thank you so much, mate. I will see you on the next episode.
Peace out, dude. I love you.
Love you too, mate. See ya.